Welcome to Loop City. I am your host, Mike Skills. We are a group of 5 guys that love hoops, entertainment, and culture. Today on the show, we are going to recap and react to the latest film by Ethan Hawke called starring Ethan Hawke and a wonderful ensemble cast as well called Black Phone. First off, we're going to talk about the intro to the movie. Now, Matty Boy, I know you were the first one that put me onto this movie, and you were like, yo, you got to watch this, the first beginning. That opening baseball scene.
Oh, yes.
Talk about that, bro, because I'm sitting there watching it like, what is this?
Before I go on, I told Byron I was going to get the movie. I was going to buy it. He's like, give me I'm going to watch it, because I was going to wait a few days to watch it with my cousin. So shout out to Rad for saying how good of a movie it was and getting us all even more hyped up, and then me, of course, getting you hyped up.
Oh, yes.
But I love the way they open the movie, because the way they did it, it kind of like, if you don't know what you're getting into, you didn't see the trailer, you think this could be a coming-of-age story.
Yeah.
You know, the main character, Finn, he's the pitcher. He throws, they're trying to win a baseball game. He gives up the home run. Just a perfect setup to the movie. Feel goods, playing baseball, clearly, since they're in school in it, clearly probably October, September. And it just it's great to set it up that way, I think, because if you haven't seen the trailer, you don't know what you're getting into. But if you have, I think it's kind of a misdirect. Well, wait a second here. I thought this was going to be this, and then you get that scene.
And I
thought
really,
it was a beautiful thing.
But I really thought the opening of that scene was kind of like showing, like, yo, this is a normal day in suburbia.
Yes.
They're playing baseball, kids eating ice cream and whatnot. And it's kind of like it can happen at any given time, any place.
I don't know if we've said any of us have said.
No, we haven't said anything yet.
No, I know, but it does take place in Denver, Colorado.
Yeah, that was a nice
suburb of Denver.
That was different. We don't get a lot of movies in Denver. It's always LA, New York, Middle Ohio, Florida,
Chicago,
Texas. That was different.
Yes.
That was different. That opening scene where the kid is the hero, hits the home run, and it's like, yo, your arm is mint. And he's riding his bike through the neighborhood, and you can tell he's like the cool kid. All the girls are like, hey, what was that kid's, what was his,
Bruce. Bruce was his name.
Yeah, he was like, hey, Bruce. And the girls are like, hey, Bruce. I was like, he the man.
Too? It was like classic Little League baseball. He was the biggest kid on the team.
Oh.
The biggest kid is always the best player in Little League baseball.
How old was Bruce? Like, honestly, I want to see Bruce's birth certificate. You know about the Little League where they have them kids in there that be like 6'5", and they're like, oh, he's 12. Ain't no way in the world he's 12. He need to be playing basketball.
He's 12 in the movie.
Yeah. But that was the one thing that bothered me. He was riding that bicycle, and it was looking kind of small on him, but I digress, man. Yes. So you see him ride the bicycle away. And for those don't know, it's basically an abduction movie. Kids are being abducted from the Denver area, and they're being murdered by a psychopath.
The grabber.
By the grabber. And that scene where you just see the van pull up and then it just fades into the credits.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think about that? Because I was looking at that. I was like, what happened? I was like, oh, he got grabbed, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's why they did it. Just to add a little bit of suspense, because they've just started us with the baseball scene, so you think you're going to get this coming-of-age story of these young kids, and then he's riding his bike, all happy as can be, and then boom, the van comes and it just fades, cuts to black, just to add the suspense, like, yeah, you thought this is what you were going to see. No.
Yeah. So then, the credits flash, and they go into the next scene, and, they see the signs that Bruce has been missing for some time now. And the two kids, was it Finn and what's his sister's name, Matt?
His sister's name is,
because her sister had a mouth. Right here.
Gwen is his sister's name.
Gwen had a mouth. Gwen was.
She was off the chain.
Like, do y'all remember when we were kids and cursing like that when adults went around? Because I do. I remember I thought that shit was perfect. I mean, it was like Stranger Things, Goonies vibes for a minute, man. I know I was looking at that and I was like, damn, they every other word is fuck this and fuck that. And I was like, all right, kids, let's go. Let's go.
Mike, you're gonna have to put parental advisory on this episode.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, not parental advice. I'll just say it's not for kids. It's
Fair
not
enough.
for the kids. You know, this ain't
Yeah.
Baby Shark.
Yeah.
So the movie's going along and we're moving into the scenes where the bully is getting. What did y'all think of the bully scene? Like, just put your hand up if you want to say something on that bully scene when he was getting mollywopped. That bully was getting whooped.
Take it, Byron.
I know you want to take that because he was
Take
getting
it,
he was getting whooped. He was just.
I mean, it was. Are you talking about the scene where his sister jumped in, or the scene prior?
No. But the first one when he and his sister are watching, and it's like he had it coming. He deserved it.
Yeah, it really. That character, that was probably my favorite character in the movie. That kid, because he had a lot of fight in him, and then the role he plays later on in the movie is being a catalyst to the survival of the main character's escape.
Mm-hmm.
And that character, I hate to see what happened to him because he's somebody you're rooting for. They portray him to be like kind of like this villain, but I think he represents everybody who's just not taking it. Like, I'm not taking this. Like, I'm not having it. But also they show the vulnerability of that character. He's like, hey, can you help me with my homework? I'm struggling here. And then he's actually looking out for the other kids. So I think that character, and he had the best line in the whole movie.
Well, what did he say?
The best two lines. Well, the first one was, he said, just because you can take a punch doesn't mean that you can't start giving them.
Oh.
And that is so profound, because I think in life you take so many punches, maybe not physical punches, but I think life just throws so many things at you, and you have to get to a point to where you start chunking them back eventually, whether it's your job, whether it's toxic relationships, no matter what it is, whether it's whatever issue it is that you're facing. Sometimes things can overtake you and you just take so much. But when you get to that point of realization, it's like, man, I'm going to start socking back. And that's how you win in life. So I really like that.
Was the other quote the one where he was like, he's like, yeah, you got to, when you beat a bully, you got to do it publicly so the people see?
Exactly. I like that line too, because it's kind of, it's like that movie 500 in a sense. When he chunks the spear at Xerxes.
You mean 300? 300.
I mean, what movie did I say?
You said 500. 300.
300.
Yeah.
Hey, we got to get it correct. We don't
300.
look like idiots.
He chunks that spear at Xerxes, and people are worshiping him like he's some sort of god. What he did was he proved to everyone that he was not immortal. He was a mortal man.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes that. You have to do that to let people know that, hey, they are human.
Yeah, and people got less scared of the bully after seeing him get his behind whooped.
Right. They're not infallible. They're not always going to be undefeated. It's just no one has publicly beat him up yet for us to know it's possible. So, yeah.
Yeah, so the thing I noticed about it was like Finn is the only kid that we actually see get grabbed. Like, they go to a montage of the kids walking out and them like the van pulling up, but Finn is the only kid we see get abducted with those balloons. Like,
because it kind of fades to black for the other victims.
Yeah, it just fades out and you're like, okay, it's implied off screen. Are we going to see how he actually does it? But then when we get Finn and he's the grabber is standing there with the eggs and like the magician paint, he's like, oh, I'm a magician. You know, like there's something that I saw that I wanted to see if anybody caught. And maybe it's just me connecting weird things because I'm weird like this. But The first kid that got abducted name was Bruce. The second kid who got abducted, his name was Robin. And the magician had face paint and was laughing, cackling like the Joker. Did anyone put that together, or was it just me?
I think it was just you, but that's actually, it may have meant absolutely nothing.
True.
However, that is very clever to see that. I didn't even think of it because Bruce Wayne, Robin, Dick Grayson, and then the Joker, Batman.
Well, they showed Robin obviously getting abducted, and Robin came later actually because Griffin and the other one, the older kid from the arcade, had already gotten taken before that. Robin just had the closest relationship with Finney.
Yeah.
And that's why they wanted to show that. And obviously we'll talk about more the relationship of with Robin as the movie went on to how it correlated with Finney's story arc. But it was just interesting as it went, like the way the grabber went and got the different kids was basically kind of the same of, hey, I'm this magician, like my balloons, things like that. It's just, I think as he went along, he got bolder with taking kids in different spots. And it's kind of like somebody that's like, I know I'm going to get caught. Let me see how bold I can get before anybody notices.
Yeah. And so kids are getting abducted, and Finney is now down in the basement. And like, what did y'all think the purpose of him abducting the kids were, other than that he could? Was he like trying to replay something where he got abducted before? Like, I was trying to make that connection of like, why is he abducting these kids? Like, I couldn't figure that out for the life of me.
Hey, Greg, take this one.
I think one thing is that it was a game to him. He's a serial killer, so he's a psychopath.
Yeah.
But ultimately it was a game, and I think the one reason why Finney was able to stay alive is because he didn't really play the game that the grabber wanted to play. Because if you notice, one of the deceased individuals that kind of came to Finney and told him, said he's playing the game. He had to play the game, but Finney really didn't play the game the way.
No, he didn't.
It kind of irritated the grabber, that he wasn't playing the game that way. But I want to ask anybody a question: Did this movie give you kind of like that same kind of like feeling of the movie The Lovely Bones?
I have not seen.
I've never seen that. What's The Lovely Bones about?
The Lovely Bones is about this girl who obviously was abducted in her neighborhood, and it's almost like her spirit is like leading the person in the movie, I think, to the abductor in the neighborhood, and it was like the next door neighbor, but then nobody knew.
Yeah, kind of like in Sixth Sense, how the little girl that was killed by the stepmom was trying to get the Haley Joel Osment character to see the video that she had recorded of her mom poisoning her from the grave. And
this kind of had that same kind of feeling to it, but yeah, ultimately I think it just had something to do with Finney didn't play the grabber's game, man. He played it he kind of was following the deceased individual's ideas on how to get out of the situation, and I think ultimately the way they wanted it to work didn't quite work. But the things they were having Finney to do was like all a setup to ultimately get the grabber at the end. And it's kind of like one of these things too, like the motto of this story is kind of whatever you do in the dark will soon come to light.
Right.
Like, eventually what you put out will eventually come back to bite you in the end. And I think that's what happened to the grabber.
Yeah.
He thought he could get away with it for so long, and in the end the tables turned and it got him. And it was done by a kid.
Yeah. And wasn't it like wasn't this like the beginning of Act 2 or kind of end of Act 1 where the police go to the house and the brother answers, and we don't know it's his brother at the time, but then the officer, he's like, I got this theory. Look at all this map where all the kids are getting abducted.
Was that the scene where you had the cocaine on the table?
Yeah, and that was
say something. That was to be honest with you, that was one of my favorite characters next to Finney.
Yes.
The brother was like, the murders that happen here, I think the killer is somewhere around here. And it's like, idiot, it's your brother.
Yes.
He's doing the
happening
killing.
in your house.
But he was so hyped up on coke. It was like all the details that would be like directly in his face. He kind of overlooked those because he was so high.
Yeah, it's like, let that be a lesson to you kids. Don't talk to strangers and don't do cocaine.
I want to say something real quick because, like, the whole thing where we know nothing about the backstory of the grabber. We know nothing about. I think that adds to.
It does.
It adds to his characters. You're like, I don't know nothing about this guy. Also, I have a theory here. You know, clearly they probably weren't thinking about, but clearly this movie's doing well. It's going to make a lot of money profit-wise. Is it going to make $600-700 million? No, but the budget of the movie to what it's going to make, the profit margin will be pretty well, and it sets up for like a prequel type deal where they can do a movie about his backstory.
I agree with that, especially because of.
I told you that, Matt. I said that to you first.
I know we talked about it. We did talk about it. No. Hey, credit to Rad
on the podcast and take my idea.
Yeah.
You said when we discussed it, you said they don't need to make another one. And I said the only way I see them making another one is if it's a prequel to explain his purpose for killing these kids. Because his brother seems, for the most part,
for the most part.
His brother is a serial killer. He seems normal, but he also has a dependency. You see him snorting the coke all day long. So
if you look at some of the spots they picked during the movie, the grabber says, "Oh, that phone doesn't work. It hasn't worked since I was a kid." It kind of gives you the glimpse of the parents left him down in the basement. They didn't really care for him. Was, obviously, he was psychotic issues and like all those different things. So it's like, what are you looking for? Are you looking for to take these kids for, to build a bond, or are you looking just to be a serial killer? Like, there's many avenues you can go as far as how you want to look at his psyche. And what I found interesting with his brother is he's like, oh yeah, I want to be like, I'm like this detective in waiting and all this stuff. How can I help you guys and all this stuff? And I'm like, dude, you the whole time you never once open your door to like walk downstairs just to see what's what's going on. Like, your brother's doing all this shady stuff, and you just decided like later on, just all of a sudden, but for like 6 months you didn't ever bother. Like, it's just kind of, it was just kind of random to me of how it got filled in. But I did feel like one thing that they could have expanded maybe a little more with the backstory. I know they touched on like the mother and how Gwen had the more or less psychic ability to see things and kind of know what's going on. Touched on it a little more from Gwenny's side, like in waiting. Other than, I mean, you had the moments where she's like, Jesus, and she's, cursing and like,
what the fuck, Jesus?
Yeah, basically.
Fuck, Jesus?
Yeah. And things like that. I would have liked to seen a little bit more side of her, other than just the interviews with the fumbling detectives and things like that.
Yeah.
Like, that's something I would have expanded a little more, but I know they were, trying to cut it for time and things like that. But
I wonder with the grabber, like, if you remember one of the scenes when Finney's talking to the deceased kids, their ghosts, and they said the grabber could hear the phone too, but he doesn't want to believe it.
Right.
So clearly there's some things going on there. And also what you said about him when he took, it's very possible that he took those kids as a bond. He never really ever intended to kill them, but because they didn't play the game he wanted them to play,
right,
he kills them.
Or maybe because they played the game. Because a moment ago you guys said Finney survived because he didn't play the game.
Well, they all did different things. The kid, Vance was the kid from the arcade, fought back and was like trying to fight him. Like, one of them, pulls the phone cord up through the floor and, was trying to get out that way. Like,
And then one tried to go up the stairs.
Yeah, one went up the
door
stairs
unlocked.
and went out the door and tried to go out the door. And so different things that kind of set him off of like, hey, like I don't have this trust and bond that I'm trying to create with this random kid that I just kidnapped. And then with Finney, the grabber just turned because he's like, hey, what's your name? And Finney didn't realize he has the newspaper in his hand.
Oh,
He knows his name. So when he lies and says a different name,
he's like, I'm Taylor like, so-and-so.
Yeah, you're done because you see his whole psyche flipped. And I don't know, I'm sure you guys did catch how the grabber was feeling that day was his mask. He had the happy mask.
Yeah, the mouth. The mouth would always.
The mouth was different.
And I liked how his face was always painted white for the most part, but then he had the detachable pieces to the mask. That was clever.
I didn't see that, but I do have a theory as to what could be for the sequel. His motivation for killing these kids. You see how Finney's little sister, she has this gift to where she can see things, or she might see him in visions, and then the movie obviously tells you that he's also has some sort of ability because he's in contact with people from the other side, and he can hear the phone. But remember, one of the kids who was killed said he can hear it too. My theory is perhaps his brother is normal because his parents favored his brother over him and resented him because he's telling them, well, I'm hearing these voices or I'm seeing these things. So maybe he was locked away in a basement somewhere, kind of put in exile by his parents because they think that what he's seen, or they can't cope with the fact that their kid might have schizophrenia.
Yeah, he's seeing demons
or
whatever.
So that might be his motivation. His parents probably put him in a basement without a working phone, and it had an effect on his psyche because he's like, wow, I can't use this phone. That could be part of the reason why he does what he does to these kids.
Yeah.
There's some connection because the brothers, for the most part, is normal. I guess if you have money in the 70s, it was popular to do.
He's just on the coke, man. Hey.
I mean, I think he's somewhat normal, but I think that probably had an effect on him, probably seeing his older brother put in a basement or whatever, going with that theory. If he saw his brother put in the basement like that and he's the younger brother, maybe he's thinking, man, if they're going to do that to him, what are they going to do to me? Let me behave well and be good. And that's probably pushed him into his addiction in adulthood.
Because he was faking the funk.
Yeah, he was trying to, it's like, no. And it was an interesting parallel to Gwen and Finn.
Yes, I was just thinking that.
Because Finn comes home, because the cops, they go to the school and they interview Gwen because she is like, yeah, I have dreams and they come true. And the cops are interrogating her and she's cursing up a storm and she's like, Gwen, I'm calling your dad. And when they get home, dad ain't playing. Like, we're all from that age where kids used to get.
How realistic was that belt whipping?
I think that
gave me some flashbacks.
You know what's crazy about it though? I'm glad.
Flashbacks? That brought back nightmares. What you mean?
You're gonna have younger people who didn't grow up in those times. They're like, "What? This is abusive. What's going on?"
It is.
When you got in trouble, that's what happened to you.
Yes.
I mean,
I got my mouth
washed. Yeah, I got my mouth washed out with soap when I used bad language in front of my parents.
There wasn't
a bar in my mouth bite down.
Yeah, there was no CPS when we were kids. There was none of that. There wasn't no hotline to call. You got beat. You know what happened if you got beat? Yeah. You got beat by somebody else's mama seeing you misbehave. And then when you got home, she had called to talk to your mama or your dad. And guess what? You was getting that ass beat later.
No, that's definitely not our era. That's our parents' era. Like,
no. I got one. Nah, because I lived in the neighborhood where all the parents knew my sister because my sister would babysit. So they would tell my sister, then my sister would tell mom. So when I got home, I walk in, the belt just laying on the couch.
Okay, I thought you meant they whooped you and then.
Oh no! They died me out. They wouldn't put hands on me, but
that's a story like my mom would tell. Like,
yeah.
Hey, I got one. Rad knows this story.
But as far as Matt, that explains a lot, man. Like, whoop no belt. They put stuff in your mouth. Okay.
I got hit. Hey, and I got hit with the wooden spoon.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That wooden spoon didn't hurt.
Soap.
I got the wooden spoon. That didn't hurt. I would just be like, I got hit with the wooden spoon.
I'll tell you a funny story though, real quick. And I think Rad knows this. When my mom was young, and she has 3 sisters. My mom is the second youngest, and Donna, that's the youngest sister. So they would get bullied by these boys down the street. My grandpa Al, man, he'd send the 2 oldest sisters with baseball bats to go beat the snot out of those bullies.
Wow.
Rad, you knew that. Hey, you knew Al. You knew Al. He wasn't playing no games.
That's crazy. So
my man, he slept with a damn pistol underneath his pillow.
Wow.
Over 80 years old.
And you never had a whooping. He never whooped you?
No, but he almost did once. He walked, like when we were in Florida, they turned their porch thing into like another room and had a sliding door, and it was so clean all the time. He walked right into it one day, and I just burst into tears. He came up to me, he was about to beat my ass the next day. Like literally, like he walks. So he goes in the kitchen, grabs some tape, he puts an X on the door with tape.
Basically mad. That's where you go stand up. You go stand up against.
No, it's so that you don't walk into it.
Oh, okay.
It was so clean.
Now let me tell you how different that story would have been if that had been me. He'd have put the X on my behind, so he got the belt.
Yeah,
you know where to hit every time.
Yeah, man. That scene brought back traumatic memories, but it was a nice parallel in movie context from the grabber and his brother to Finn and Gwen with their dynamic of Finn. He wants to protect his sister, but he doesn't know what to do. He feels powerless in that situation. And it's crazy how fast forwarding later on, when the dad comes and sees Finn on the stretcher of the ambulance, and he gets down on his knees and he's like, "I'm so sorry."
But that's an alcoholic though.
Yeah.
So that's an alcoholic parent that's like, "Oh, what did I do?" in the like few moments of clarity, and it just is. That's just kind of how it was. So that kind of hit, and especially in that era, and just kind of where it was. It's like I could have lost everything, and then it's like, maybe it kind of foreshadowed a sobering moment that kind of turns his relationship around with the 2 kids.
Yeah.
Because from my understanding, they didn't say what happened to the mom, but I think she committed suicide just based on kind of where they were going with everything. But
yeah,
I thought
I could be wrong.
I thought they did say it, that she did commit suicide.
Did they say it? I must have missed it.
I thought that's what their pops said.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it would have been easy to miss though with everything that was going on, but I believe that was the case. She took her life just because of all the craziness with the voices. Because it seemed, what I like they did, so Finn could clearly talk to the spirits, right? But his sister had the visions in her dreams, but she could also see them. But I don't think she could really talk to them.
Right. She just she could see.
And I'm gonna guess mom could do all of it.
Yeah, that's what I assumed.
Yeah, and that probably led her to go crazy because she couldn't control the voices and
exactly.
And there were even scenes where the dad was like, "You're not your mother."
Mm-hmm. And think about it. This when she took her life would have been obviously prior to the events, and it takes place in 1978, right? So back then, stuff like that was not seen as normal,
right?
Even nobody now, it's not. It would be more accepted now than it was. It would have been back then. So you could see how it would drive someone mad, where it might push them to take their own life.
Yeah,
it makes me wonder though, what's the correlation between her and the grabber?
That's a good question, because he could clearly hear that phone.
Right,
he could clearly hear that phone.
Abilities. And the sister, Finney's sister, did y'all peep like the ode to Stranger Things, how she goes in the water like a
when she's in the tub,
right? And then she can see what was the bully's name? The arcade kid.
I want to.
Vance.
Vance.
She can see Vance going to tell him that today is his day. Like, you don't have much time. Today is the day.
Today's your day,
that's how
motherfucker.
She finds the house.
Like, no.
What you say?
I was just repeating the line that he said in the.
Yeah,
he said it so strong. Like, he said it so strong.
Today's the day, motherfucker.
And then he because he was so violent with it, and that was the one that fought the grabber, and he instantly got killed. And
I think they kind of alluded to that kid is in some sort of suffering or some sort of hell, because the more irate he got, you see he's just he got sucked away. Whereas the other kids, they remained and they were more peaceful. They were more calm.
Well, I don't see the paperboy going to hell. He was just trying to do his route, and him and his dog both got,
Arcade Kid was just wailing on just beating the snot out of dudes because they messed up his pinball score.
Nah, he didn't just beat the snot out of him. The kid pulled a knife on him. He took the knife and carved the numbers in dude's arm.
Yeah. Man, you know what? That was kind of like what happened in It.
Yes.
Right? Chapter 1 when they carved into the fat kids.
Yes.
There was a lot of elements from. I saw the Silence of the Lambs. I saw It. I saw.
When that FBI raid reminded me so much of Silence of the Lambs.
Pete, what was the movie with all the kids? It was kind of a coming of age. Was it Stand By Me or something like that?
Stand By Me.
Stand By Me,
You could see a lot of that in this. You could see a lot of stuff in this movie that you could tell that the director, Scott Derrickson, who we all know, the first Doctor Strange movie, but also Sinister.
Yeah, Sinister.
Same director.
The writer of the short story was Joe Hill, which people would not, if you don't know, writers and stuff, would not put together. Stephen King is his father, and we all know Stephen King is
the master of it.
Yeah, so it's basically he's taking little bits and pieces of stories of his father, I think, in the short story, and then Scott Derrickson kind of put his spin on it of, hey, this is what we can do with it, similar to what he did with Sinister. Because to me, you remember in Sinister, with the what is it, Super 8 tapes and stuff like that, with the attic and stuff like that, all that stuff kind of comes into play when it just I don't know, I just feel like there's so many similarities to those different movies and so many Stephen King novels that kind of you could take bits and pieces from that piece together. But it's just interesting as far as each of the characters that were abducted, the other kids, how much they were able to build up as the movie went on. They all gave little hints to the final plan. Yeah. Pack the dirt tight into the phone. There's a hole in the floor. Make sure there's meat in the fridge if you break through the wall to
feed the dog.
Hey, I started to get a wire, but I got caught. So if you take the wire and you wrap it and try to get up to the window, all those kinds of things. The combination lock, the kid gave hey, it's my bike number. He stole it from me. And all the different things. And it's just interesting because all those things pieced together. But if you noticed, when he did sneak upstairs, Finney sneaked upstairs at the one point, technically he could have just bashed that dude, the grabber's head in and because he was sleeping. So it's interesting they went back to I don't know that I want to make this move. I might get overpowered.
Yeah, he was still afraid. He was still afraid.
And it took Robin giving him the courage to build towards the final climax.
And he was teaching them how to punch. He was like, all right, take the phone, swing left, swing right. I thought that was
back, step forward,
step back, step forward.
Basically. Yeah.
That kid sounded like a boxing coach. Hit him. All right, rope-a-dope.
We all saw that scene with that kid where he just
where he beat Moose. He laid Moose out. He laid him out. Oh my God. So now we're getting at it. Well, before we proceed to the climax, what were you guys thinking about the character development? I mean, we just talked about Finn and obviously Gwen, but the two brothers, the grabber and the brothers, the more and more as it went, he got more sinister and he got more almost childlike, which is even scarier. He was like, you know, what was it he said, Matt, when he was like, I thought he said something that was like, I feel okay. I feel happy today or something.
It was something like that. I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And it was just like, that's a weird ass.
And it's weird, though, because half the time when he's talking to Finn, like, he's actually kind of being nice to him.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. Everything was peachy cream until he baited him into, hey, so what's your name?
Yeah.
And then
let me go. I won't tell anybody about you. Let me go.
Yeah. He's like, I almost let you go.
Almost let you go.
Yeah, do you want a soda?
Mm-hmm.
And he takes the breakfast and smashes it on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The character development, I mean, we saw it with those, but like I think I liked even some of the ones that we really didn't know a lot about, like Vance. I think there was some good development there with him.
Oh, like the supporting characters.
Yeah. Even though he wasn't in it a lot, it's like, okay, this guy went from, being a bully and asshole, clearly still as a spiritual being, he's still a fucking asshole, but he's helping him get out. And he's like, it's not about you. And I love that he said that. It's not about you.
Yeah, it really is.
It was about stopping the grabber from doing it to anybody else. It wasn't about, Finn has to get away. No, you got to fucking take this guy out. We got to take him out.
You got to end the grabber.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was...
For me, what was weird, like in my instant thought of the grabber's personality in and out, because I have a 5-year-old and I had to sit through the Blippy stuff, he reminded me of that, hey guys, it's Blippy, and like all the happy-go-lucky, and all of this like, oh.
Yeah.
It's just that changing of attitude of like a grown man that can get into character like that. Like I give so much applause to Ethan Hawke being able to play that sinister type, but then he could change his moods on and off. And he did it all behind a mask.
Yes.
You didn't see his face until the
very end of the movie.
You never really saw his mouth move.
Yes. You're right.
You never really see his mouth move.
You're right.
The entire movie. The only time you really see it move is when he takes Finn, because his face is still painted. That's really the only time.
Yeah, but you never see his bare mouth move until the very end. So to be that expressive through the mask and to convey those things just off his voice, seen through the mask was bodied it. I mean, the whole cast, all the young kids, all the young,
except for the detectives who were just dumb as.
Oh yeah, they even played that perfectly.
It was like typical 70s, 80s detective where it's like, oh, we just followed these simple leads. Oh, we didn't get it today. Next case, like
maybe we'll solve it tomorrow.
Yeah, it's typical small town thing. I thought the turn of the movie obviously was when he made it through the bike lock, gets out the door. He's like, oh, I'm home free. Like, I got it. And then all of a sudden, here he comes peeling around the corner in the van, slams him on the ground, holds a knife to him.
And it's like,
a word, I'll gut you.
Gut you.
He said, I'll gut you like a fucking fish, I think he said, or something like that.
And it changed the whole dynamic. The grabber was like, all right, I'm in panic mode now. Like, I gotta get rid of this kid. Like, I gave him a chance. I thought I built something of a rapport with him, and then just everything changed.
Yes.
And as you went along, Gwenny's vision started getting more in depth. The trees, the front of the house, then the house number flashes, and all that stuff. And what's interesting is none of the other kids previously could hear the phone, but Finney can, and he's getting the advice as he goes. Finney's getting stronger in his courage and his confidence to build this plan of, I got this. If he comes down, I could do this, 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 and this. And then at the same time, he's still thinking about, like, as a kid would, oh, I got an opening. Let me go through this bike lock door and I'm home free. And then it gets sucked away and you're like, oh man, this kid's gonna get killed, and like that sucks for him. Like,
but then he does his Kevin McAllister Home Alone thing in the basement.
Yeah, right.
Which I liked, by the way.
Oh no, that was dope. That was kind of an ode to Home Alone, because that was like the violent version of Home Alone. It's like, you took me captive, I'm gonna beat the crap out of you, and he showed little remorse in that scene, which was like complete character development.
Yeah.
He gotten from the point of, I'm not a kid anymore. This is life or death. I have to do something now. And that whole setup of digging, laying the traps, throwing the stuff on the bottom, getting the phone.
Yeah. The climax of this was really good.
Yes.
What they did.
It was really good. Because I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I got a little lost in the middle when he started seeing the visions and like the bodies were like floating or they were talking behind him. I was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? But now that y'all explain it, I get a better understanding of like, yes, he did have this similar powers as his sister, or similar abilities.
I think that's what they want. That's all they want.
Yeah, and it showed you the connection. Like it showed you how Finney crossed paths with Vance and how they knew each other from being outside the store to him getting put in the car. Then it showed like it showed the police car passing the grabber's house. And that's how Gwen got the vision to then go to have the detectives look there. It's just interesting how it all like kind of connected through. But
hey, I gotta ask Gon something. Gon's
the ending.
That's where I'm going though. Gon.
Okay, you going with the ending.
When the police come, because we're still in that climax, right? And they go to the house that Gwen points them to. Like it was a misdirect, but it really wasn't. Did you like how they did that? How he used both houses?
Well, absolutely. I mean, he really didn't play where he stayed. You know what I'm saying? Like where he stayed, he didn't commit the crimes in the house he was living out of. He did it across the street in like a whole nother house away from his own, which is still a little too close, but it's enough to throw people off.
Yes.
You know, I don't know, man, like the ending of that movie, I think the bad part about this movie, my con with this movie, is I like the ending. But the con of this movie, I think it was too short. Because it's more to this stuff it's more to the story that could have been told. Which I understand they might come out with a prequel to it. But I'm also assuming when they said the grabber had heard the phones, he could sometimes hear the phones ringing in the basement. I believe at some point the grabber was probably abused as a child by his own
absolutely
and stuffed in that basement. Because if you look at, because I watch a lot of Mine Hunters and the John Wayne Gacy documentaries, most serial killers have an abusive background.
Yes.
You know, like
torturous backgrounds.
Like, have you ever seen Mine Hunters? The first episode is one guy from California who ended up killing his mom, and this is a real killer. I might add, I don't know his name, but you can check out Mine Hunters on Netflix. Not Mine Hunters was like an FBI agency that went into just these two guys. They opened up this agency. The FBI opened up an agency for them to study the minds of serial killers. And there's one serial killer who ended up killing his mom. He cuts her head off, and then he like makes love to the head.
Wow.
But he was so deranged because his mom always abused him and always told him he was going to be nothing, just like his father. His mom always abused him and demeaned him and beat him because he reminded him so much of his father. And Ted Bundy had like the same kind of like, touched as a child. It's just these serial killers have like traumatic childhood experiences. I mean, let's look at R. Kelly for that much.
Yeah,
he's a serial killer, but he has some traumatic stuff as a child.
He has predatory behavior.
He does. He was molested by his sister. Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, so what happened to you as a child can greatly affect you as a human, as an older adult. You know, and if you don't get help, you know, or get some type of counseling. Well, I'm not going to say counseling, therapy.
Yes.
Because I don't think people with those kind of traumatic experiences, I don't think they need counseling. I think they need to see a psychiatrist, you know, and get on and get some real help, you know, with their mentals. Because, I mean, it can really turn you to a bad human being.
Yeah, and that's exactly what the grabber was. You could clearly see that he was emotionally and probably stunted from trauma and clearly was trying to relive something or break through whatever, but it manifested in him abducting and murdering kids. And when there's no greater feeling in a film when you see the bad guy get it thrown at him and he got messed up. When he broke his ankle,
man, let
me go back one scene.
Go ahead.
Go back one scene before we get into him with the grabber. How about that last phone call with Robin?
Oh,
he goes, "You never leave a friend behind, and I've always been here with you." Like that, I actually almost teared up because that was like, damn, like when you have real friendship, like it's like that hits home.
Man, that hits so hard.
I'm so glad you said that, Pete, because when I saw that movie, once Matt saw it, I said, I want to see that kid in other films because.
Are you talking about the kid, the actor who is Robin?
Yeah. Oh my God, the only person that acted better in that film than him, I would say, or was at that tier, that level, was maybe Gwen and. But I put that kid right up there because you just felt that character, and I kind of wanted the details of how the grabber killed him because I don't think that was an easy kill for him.
No, it probably wasn't.
Well, if he did like he did to Finney, where he sprayed him in the eyes, it probably
It probably remember, Robin was kind of a smaller guy. He wasn't a big kid.
Yeah, but once he sprayed him,
that's where they gave you the actual outline of how he was getting the kids. Of like, oh no, I dropped this. Can you help me? As soon as they go to get up, because when you're getting up, you're not gonna get up and have your fist ready to fight. So you're getting up trying to help him. Boom, you got sprayed in the eyes. You're back down. Like
what we didn't talk about though that Finney did when he took his pen and jabbed him in the eye.
Oh yeah, his space shuttle flashlight.
I love how they used that flashlight pen or whatever it was throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, it was a NASA rocket that doubled as like a flashlight and I think a pen.
Yeah. And if you notice in the beginning of the movie, he's got there's the girl who sits next to him. You can tell he's got a crush on her. He's staring, playing with his pen and stuff. I just like how they use that. Was just really that's just good visuals and just and as crazy it is, the pen actually kind of had a payoff.
It did. It had a full payoff because you have it in the beginning. He's fascinated with space. He's using the little flashlight kind of get attention in class from the girl he likes, but then he's using it as a weapon. And then while he's locked down in the basement, he's using it to see at night. And he's walking around when he's on the phone. And actually, I forget the kid's name, but he's like, I put the combination, I carved it into the wall.
Griffin was
Griffin. Yeah. And he takes the flashlight and he's sitting there going up against the wall and he's like, he's using it. So like, you're right, Matt. It had a really big payoff. Now for the big payoff, the ending.
Oh man. Hey, Mike, when I was watching it at my cousin's house almost 2 weeks ago, man, when once the grabber goes into the hole, he breaks his ankle. And then when Finn he kind of starts walloping on it, then he gets the rope or whatever start. I was like, I was cheering.
He got the cord and then wrapped it.
Yeah.
When he was choking him out, I was like, yes, I was cheering. I've never cheered like that in a horror movie before.
But what's crazy, they had the kids on the line.
Yeah, screaming, yelling like, this is what you get. This is what you deserve.
And it wraps it up to the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Bruce saying, your arm is mint.
Yep.
When he's just
I made an observation. It just popped in my head, but at the time I never thought of it. Why was it? It seemed like Robin was the only ghost that knew his name was Robin and who he was. Where the other,
I think it was the most recent kill.
Yeah.
Okay.
And similar to it, as the time goes, your memory starts fading.
Okay.
Like. How that's kind of like that's where I was like, okay, I can connect. Or
maybe just because him and Robin were close.
Could be
possibly, but I do like your theory, Pete, because it sounds like the longer you are separated from your spirit is separated from your body, the less and less you have those human memories versus just like your soul memories or something. But no, that ending was crazy.
When Finney breaks the grabber's mask and it exposes the face of the grabber. My takeaway from it was previously like the grabber really didn't want to let you know who he was until it was time, like basically for him to kill you. What if the mask symbolized how ashamed he was of what he, like, basically what he had become, the abuse he had.
That makes sense.
Because all along, what if bringing the drink down, the tray of food, all that stuff, what if all that stuff was the abuse he endured reenacted?
Yes.
And that's what it's showing you as you go along.
Yeah. I think so, because it was very ritualistic. If you notice, every morning he made him the same thing: a plate of eggs, scrambled, and a Sprite. That's it. And it was on that silver tray that looked like a commissary tray, or like a tray from prison or somewhere. Like that wasn't a normal tray.
Or a tray that I had when I was in boot camp.
Yeah, it looked like something institutionalized, either military or like a prison. It was a metal tray. It was very plain, and he was just like, here. And you notice he never gave him a fork. He wasn't smart. He was like, nah, you ain't stabbed me with that fork. Somebody probably stabbed him before.
Yeah. And knowing all along how, because I think how they tied in the father's abuse, for me, like kind of how I took out of it was, Finney knows how to play the game. I'm not going to piss this guy off because I know how to get around him, like my father, not to piss him off. So then he's not playing the game. The grabber can't win. And then it's alluded to when the kid says, well, you're not playing the game, and I think that really helped him. So all those little bits and pieces you got throughout the movie, there wasn't any, like, because some movies you get where it's like, all right, that's a little like, added piece in that didn't really make any sense. They could have scrapped that. Everything in this movie all along made sense.
It didn't create any plot. It didn't create any plot holes.
Correct.
Yeah, it made perfect sense. It flowed, and it was like less is more. And all in all, like, we can go now to the ratings. Like,
well, real quick, Mike, I want to say, because it's clear, and my rating will show how much I like this movie. But there was one thing that I think I was watching. I don't know if you watch on YouTube, Double Toasted. It's him and his guys, and it's like a comedy thing, but they're serious about the really, really good channel on YouTube. And they brought up something, and it made sense. The one thing that probably doesn't work is just how nonchalant and just stupid the town was. These kids are being abducted, right? And it's like, it doesn't seem like there was any real awareness. You know what I mean? They're getting you see this black van come out during the day, and you're not suspicious of it all. The goddamn thing said fucking abracadabra on it. Black balloons.
But it's a magician in the 70s. People weren't. Like, you didn't talk about stuff in the 70s. Like, you didn't sit there. It wasn't like, like it is today, where you have the Karens that are nosy and everything.
Yeah.
And
but
all
you
this
would
other
think
stuff.
after 3-4 kids are getting abducted, the parents in the town didn't seem to be as up in arms, as concerned about it as they probably should have been.
But if you remember, Matt,
and look, that's just a nitpick. That's all.
But if you remember, Matt, the only detail that people knew about the kids getting grabbed was that they saw black balloons afterwards.
Nobody knew that, though, because remember,
like the cops. The cops knew that. The cops didn't make that information public. So Gwen knew that from the dream, and the kids knew that.
Yeah.
But it was not something that the parents were aware of. And like, I was a latchkey kid in the era after this, in the 90s. So I would come home by myself with a key and let myself in. So it was kind of, it's not that the parents were so nonchalant.
The kids are stupid. You know what I mean? They're just having fun. It's, they're having a good time. They're not worried about it. It's in the back of their mind. But the parents, to me, just seem nonchalant about it. It's just a nitpick. It's my only nitpick with the whole thing.
No, that's valid, because I had a friend who was actually, when we were around, maybe younger than the age of the kids in the film, he was abducted, and it was somebody who lived in the neighborhood, and he just ran home, and I don't think they ever even caught the person who kidnapped him. So I walked home from school every day. It's kind of alarming now to even think about it. Like, wait a minute, you got abducted? And he said the only reason why he got away was because the guy went to go take a shower, and he said when the guy went to take a shower, he just ran out the house.
Yeah. Well, I think on that note, let's get some scores on this.
Yeah.
Just a quick. What did you rate it and why? Let's since we are on Rad. Go ahead, Rad. Tell us. You were the first one to see it, so I'll start with you. Just a quick Score and why?
Out of 10. Go out
I
of
would give
10.
it like a 9.
All right, Matty boy.
His score is actually higher than mine. I'm going to go 8. 8 out of
Pete.
10.
Mr. Pistol Pete.
I'm going 8 out of 10. Only thing that I thought could have been better, nitpick wise, was could you have tied in a black phone in the other house in the basement where the kids were buried to tie in how are the kids talking, like, and it's not just telepathically, like, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, only nitpick I had, but otherwise good movie.
Gonzo Star, what's your number on this?
I saw the movie twice, and when I saw it at the 3 days after it came out, I said a 9 at first, but after watching the second time, I'm gonna give it an 8.
All right, and I'm
going. What changed?
What changed?
Real quick, what changed from the 9 to the 8? What changed for you?
Because I think it was just the suspense was there. I thought the movie was short, but I had seen The Lovely Bones already, and I'm like, this just gives me that same vibe.
So the tie-in,
the tie-in. I'm like, I can't give it that high considering I seen that one first. If I would have saw this movie first, I probably would have gave it a 9. But I did see Lovely Bones, so I said I had to bring that down a notch. So I have to give it an 8.
Nice.
All right, and I'm gonna round it out, and I'm gonna say I gave it a 7, and this is only because this is based off my original score, my original watching. You guys help explain more things about. I got initially Gwen's seeing visions and things like that, but I didn't really fully understand Finn when I was watching it, and part of that might be that I got interrupted watching it. I had to stop watching it and come back and watch it again the next day. So I'll probably go back and watch it again all the way through, and I might get that. But as it stands, watching it in 2 parts, I would give it a 7.
And you did say, Mike, to me, you said, you know what, I really liked it, just not as much as you and Byron.
Oh, yeah, I definitely liked it. I had a good time with it, and I would recommend it. I'd highly recommend. And in fact, again, and we were talking about it, Black Phone has already exceeded expectations. It was made for a budget of about $20 million, and it's already made 146 worldwide. Again, you know, it is
that's a huge profit.
That's a huge profit.
To make over 5 times the budget is huge.
Yeah. And they're already calling it a modern horror icon. Again, the director, Scott Derrickson, who did the first Doctor Strange and the horror movie Sinister. And then he did the screenplay along with Joe Hill, who is actually Stephen King's son. And starring Ethan Hawke with a cast of young newcomers. Mason Thames played Finney, and Madeline McGraw played Gwen, are definitely the stars. We're going to see a lot. And then Miguel Cazares Mora, who played Robin. I think we're going to see this kid in a lot of stuff too. And currently it's coming to Peacock as the exclusive.
Yes, I think it's available.
Oh, no, it's available now on Peacock, and it's still in select theaters, so you can catch it there. And that'll pretty much wrap up the Black Phone segment. Now, moving on, we got one last quick segment before we get out of here. It's formerly known as the sneaker segment. It's now called Put You Up on Game. In this segment, we are going to put you up on game on something that is out, maybe flew under the radar, and we recommend you checking out. We're going to go to Matt Miller. I'm going to say, Matt, go ahead and wrap it up. What is it? What's the name of the film?
I can do it under. Okay, we today. The movie is Prey. It is. Well, you can see it on Hulu, so it's free. You have a Hulu subscription, you can see it. And it stars Amber Mid-Thunder, and most of the other characters, like the actors, they're all brand new except her. This is like the character who is her brother. It's his first role. But for those of you who may not know what Prey is, it is a prequel to all the Predator movies. So it takes place and it follows the Comanche tribe, and it's fantastic. They really do a lot of things with the character of the Predator that we have not seen before.
Okay, and it's out now on Hulu, so y'all can catch Prey. And until next time, we are 5 guys who love hoops, entertainment, and culture. I'm your host, Mike Skills. This has been Pete Toll. This has been Coach Matt Miller, Rad Rim, Gonzo Star, and we are out. Be sure to like and subscribe on all podcast networks. and of course on YouTube, Loop City. Peace.
What was that?